I'm 40 now, which still feels like a typo when I see it on medical forms. On paper, I'm a security consultant, which is a fancy way of saying I get paid to think about how people break into places and how to stop them. Privately, it's ironic as hell, because the most important thing that ever happened to me started with breaking into somewhere I absolutely shouldn't have been. I live in a quiet apartment above a bakery, the kind of place that smells like burnt sugar at 5 in the morning. I own my car outright, I have a retirement account, I drink decent coffee instead of instant. By most measures, I'm doing okay. What nobody knows, not my coworkers, not my girlfriend, not even my therapist, is that a huge part of that okay came from one night when I was 17, drunk on boredom and teenage invincibility, climbing through a rusted hatch into an abandoned Cold War bunker in the woods outside my hometown. That night should have ruined my life. Instead, it split it cleanly into before and after. Before. Small-town screw-up, son of a mechanic and a woman who collected final notices on the kitchen table. After. Someone with a secret worth more than anything I'd ever dreamed of. This is the story I've never said out loud, the one about the bunker, the documents, and the money that still doesn't feel real. I grew up in a town that was basically 3 streets, 2 churches, and one half-abandoned industrial park that everyone's parents warned us about. The bunker sat beyond that, out past the rail line, swallowed by trees. It was this local legend leftover from when everyone thought nukes were going to rain from the sky any minute. Adults pretended it didn't exist. Kids turned it into a dare. The first time I heard about it, I was 13, sitting on a curb with my best friend, Jake, sharing a warm soda. He pointed toward the tree line like it was some forbidden kingdom. "There's a whole city underground," he said. "Tunnels, storage rooms, everything still inside. My cousin says the government just walked away." I believed him because I wanted to. When you're poor, the idea that something massive and secret is hiding in your boring town feels like proof the world is bigger than your particular brand of misery. The bunker became this shared fantasy. Our Narnia, except instead of magic wardrobes, we imagined crates of forgotten weapons and dusty control rooms with blinking lights. By 17, the fantasy turned into a plan. Jake wanted out of town, I wanted out of my life, and the bunker felt like a door someone had left unlocked just for us. The night we finally went in was supposed to be stupid and harmless, just 2 restless kids with flashlights and too much resentment. But the moment we pried open that rusted hatch, everything felt wrong. The air that rushed out was cold in a way that didn't match the summer heat, like it hadn't been breathed in decades. Jake laughed it off and dropped down first, his boots clanging against metal. I followed because I always did. Inside, the bunker wasn't the graffiti-covered hangout we'd imagined. It was cleaner, eerily intact. Rows of filing cabinets, storage lockers, and a long corridor lined with doors that still had government labels peeling off them. We should have left right then, but 17-year-olds don't leave when things feel dangerous, they lean in. Jake found the documents first. A sealed metal case shoved behind a cabinet, heavy and warm from the flashlight beam. We cracked it open expecting blueprints or Cold War relics. Instead, there were folders stamped property of the U.S. Department of Defense, classified in red so bright it felt alive. We didn't understand what we were looking at, contracts, schematics, signatures, but we understood value. Jake's eyes lit up with that wild, electric greed only desperate kids get. "Man, this is worth something," he whispered. And that whisper was the beginning of the end. The fallout was immediate, though not in the cinematic way you'd expect. No alarms, no soldiers rappelling from helicopters. Just the 2 of us stumbling out of the woods at dawn, clutching a metal case we barely understood. Jake wanted to take it straight to some buyer he swore his cousin knew. I wanted to hide it, study it, figure out what the hell we'd actually found. That disagreement cracked something between us. Within a week, rumors started drifting through school. Someone had broken into the old bunker. Someone had taken something. It wasn't hard for people to guess who. Jake bragged just enough for the wrong ears to hear. Teachers eyed us differently. My mother demanded answers I wouldn't give. And Jake's cousin began circling like a vulture. Then came the fight. Jake showed up at my house furious, insisting I was holding him back, that I wanted to keep everything for myself. It wasn't true, but I didn't have the words back then to explain the knot of fear in my stomach. We shouted until my throat burned. He walked away shaking with anger, and I let him. 2 days later, he left town without warning. No note, no call, just gone. I buried the case beneath loose boards in my bedroom closet. And for decades, that's where the truth stayed, sealed, heavy, and quietly rotting me from the inside out. For years, the case might as well have been a ghost living in my closet. I moved apartments, changed jobs, grew older, but it always came with me, wrapped in an old army blanket like a wound I didn't want to examine. Jake never came back, and the town eventually forgot about the bunker story the way small towns always do, burying uncomfortable truths beneath church potlucks and seasonal festivals. Then, 3 months ago, everything resurfaced with one unexpected phone call. I was at my office, half listening to a security briefing, when an unknown number flashed on my screen. Normally I ignore those, but something, instinct, dread, curiosity, made me answer. "Is this Marcus Lane?" A man asked, voice steady, professional. "Speaking. This is Detective Rowan with the Henderson County Sheriff's Department. We're contacting you regarding Jacob Harlow." I hadn't heard that name spoken aloud in over 20 years. My grip on the phone tightened until my knuckles whitened. "We've discovered remains near the old rail line," the detective continued. "We believe they may belong to him, and your name came up in connection to his last known movements." My stomach dropped, cold and violent. The past I'd locked away hadn't stayed buried. It had clawed its way back to the surface, bones and all. For a long moment I couldn't speak. The detective kept talking, his voice measured, careful, but all I heard was a ringing in my ears, like the bunker hatch slamming shut again after all these years. Jake was dead. Not missing, not hiding, not living some reckless life on the edge like I told myself to make the guilt easier. Dead. And somehow I was still connected to whatever had happened to him. "Sir, are you still there?" Rowan asked. "Yeah," I managed, though my tongue felt thick. "Yeah, I'm here." He explained they'd found a backpack near the remains, half-rotted. Inside was a notebook containing names, locations, and one heavy hint that Jake had been planning to sell government materials taken from an abandoned site. My name was written twice on the first page. My body went cold. The documents, the damn case I'd kept hidden out of fear and confusion, was suddenly evidence in a decades-old mystery. After the call ended, I sat in my empty office, unable to move. Shock isn't loud. It's quiet, paralyzing, like your mind is wrapped in ice while your heart races itself bloody. I knew then that the past wasn't just returning. It was demanding to be answered, and the only person alive who could answer any of it was me. Detective Rowan asked me to come in for an interview at my earliest convenience, which is cop speak for get here now, but we're pretending to be polite. I drove to the station with the kind of dread that sits in your throat, metallic and nauseating. I kept rehearsing answers, discarding them, feeling 17 again, caught, cornered, unprepared. Rowan wasn't what I expected. He was younger than me by a decade, clean-shaven, calm in that practiced way detectives have when they want you to talk. He offered me water, then opened a thin folder with my name on it. "Marcus," he began. "Not Mr. Lane, just Marcus, too familiar. We're trying to piece together Jake's last days. You were close to him." "Used to be," I said. He nodded, flipping through the notebook pages sealed in plastic. "He wrote about you. Said you two found something valuable out by the rail line. Something he thought could change everything. Do you know what he meant?" I kept my face still, but inside everything twisted. The folders, the case, the bunker, 20 years of secrets tightening like wire around my ribs. Rowan watched me too closely. "If there's anything you haven't told us," he said quietly, "now would be the time." His tone wasn't accusatory, but it carried weight. Like he already knew more than he was letting on. Like he was waiting for me to confirm a truth he hadn't spoken aloud yet. I didn't confess everything, not yet. But I didn't lie either. I told Rowan about the bunker, how it was a stupid teenage dare, how Jake had gotten obsessed with what we found. I left out the documents themselves, describing them only as old files, which wasn't untrue. But Rowan wasn't satisfied. I could feel it in the way he kept narrowing his eyes, tracking every twitch of my fingers. Then he slid a photo across the table. A grainy image of the metal case. My metal case, half buried in dirt, rusted at the edges. My breath caught. "We found this near the remains," Rowan said. "It was empty. Whatever was inside matters. A lot." The room tilted. For years I'd kept the case hidden, believing I'd taken it with me each time I moved. But there it was, in a crime scene photo, abandoned and decayed. "That can't be right," I murmured. I had it." "Are you sure?" he asked softly. And suddenly memories rewound. A move when I was 19, boxes everywhere, one missing. I'd assumed I'd misplaced things. I never checked the closet boards after that. Rowan leaned forward. "Marcus, the documents that belonged in that case were government prototypes. Technology contracts worth millions, possibly billions, if sold to the wrong people. Millions." The word didn't feel real. Jake hadn't run away. He'd gone back for what he thought I'd hidden from him, and it had killed him. I left the station feeling like my bones were humming, like some frequency had been struck inside me that wouldn't stop vibrating. Millions. The word kept echoing, warped by guilt. I'd spent 20 years believing Jake abandoned me, when the truth was sharper, crueler. He thought I'd stolen our discovery, and he went back alone to retrieve it. And whatever he found, or whoever found him, ended his life before it even began. Back in my apartment, I tore open the closet, ripping up the boards with a crowbar. The space beneath was empty, dust-lined, undisturbed. My breath grew shallow. That case had been gone longer than I'd realized. Someone had taken it while I was still a kid too numb to notice. The revelation cracked something fundamental about my past. I'd built entire identities on guilt, on the belief that my inaction had ruined my best friend. But if the case had been gone before Jake died, then someone else had been involved from the beginning. Someone who'd known the bunker wasn't as abandoned as we believed. And that meant the documents had been out in the world for 2 decades. Sold, traded, hidden, who knew, while I lived my life thinking I'd locked the danger away safely. The weight of that truth didn't just land on me. It rearranged the entire story I told myself about who I was and what Jake had died for. That night, sleep wouldn't touch me. My mind kept looping through possibilities, each darker than the last. If someone had taken the case during one of my early moves, they had to have known what was inside. And if they knew, then Jake's death wasn't some tragic accident. It was collateral damage. I kept imagining him alone in those woods, returning to the bunker with nothing but a flashlight and desperation. I tried to tell myself I wasn't responsible, but guilt is stubborn. It burrows deep and refuses eviction. I paced until the floorboards creaked, arguing with a version of myself I barely recognized. Angry, grieving, terrified. Around 3 a.m., I snapped. I grabbed my old notebook, the one where teenage me had drawn crude maps of the bunker, and I drove out to the woods. Rage guided me more than logic. I needed to see it again, needed to confront the place that had rewritten both our lives. Inside the bunker, the air was colder than I remembered. Dust lay thick on the floor except near the lockers, new footprints, too fresh to ignore. Someone else had been here, recently, and standing in that stale silence, I felt the first true pulse of fear. Whatever Jake and I stumbled into all those years ago wasn't finished with me. Not even close. I followed the footprints deeper into the corridor, each step vibrating through me like a warning I was too stubborn or too stupid to heed. The prints stopped at the old control room, the same place Jake and I had argued about what to do with the case. The door, once rusted shut, now hung crooked on a broken hinge. Someone had forced it open recently. Inside, the room was dim, lit only by my flashlight. Dust motes swirled like disturbed ghosts. On the central table lay a folder, newer than anything else in the bunker. My name was written on the front in block letters. Not printed, handwritten. My throat tightened. I opened it slowly. Inside was a single sheet of paper. A photocopy of one of the documents Jake and I found, stamped classified, with an annotation scrawled in red ink. "We know you still have copies." I didn't. I never made any. But someone believed I had, and they'd left this like a calling card. Behind me, a floorboard creaked. I spun, heart lurching, but saw no one. Just shadows shifting against concrete. My pulse hammered in my ears. This wasn't random. Someone had been watching me, waiting for me to return here. They weren't after the case. They were after the information they assumed I still carried. And suddenly, Jake's death, the missing case, the detective's questions. They all felt like pieces of a puzzle with an edge I hadn't seen until now. I backed out of the control room slowly, my flashlight trembling in my grip. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but fear pinned me in place just long enough to hear another sound, this time unmistakable. A low click, the quiet mechanical snarl of a safety being switched off. "Don't turn around," a voice said. Male, calm, far too practiced. "We just want what you took." My breath froze in my chest. "I didn't take anything," I said, and it came out hoarse. "You had the case," he replied. "Or at least your friend thought you did. People died trying to recover what was inside." Plural. People. Jake wasn't the only casualty. "I don't have the documents," I said again. "The case was stolen from me years ago." He stepped closer. I could hear gravel grinding beneath his boots. "Then someone sold a very convincing lie, and we need you to help correct it." Something in his tone cracked the fear inside me, letting a surge of anger rush through. Jake's death, 2 decades of guilt, the life I built around a secret I didn't even own. It all collided in one furious breath. "I'm not helping you," I said. There was a pause, then a sharp exhale. Almost disappointed. "Then you're of no use to us." A hand grabbed my shoulder hard. Instinct took over. I twisted, dropped, shoved back with everything I had. The flashlight clattered, the beam whipping wildly, and in the chaos, I saw his face. Just a glimpse. Someone I recognized. Recognition hit me like a gut punch. The man wasn't a stranger, not some shadowy agent from a conspiracy theory. It was Rowan, Detective Rowan. His calm voice, his steady questions, the way he'd nudged me toward remembering details. It all snapped into place with sickening clarity. He wasn't investigating Jake's death. He was cleaning up whatever mess had been left behind. He lunged again, but adrenaline sharpened everything. I bolted down the corridor, boots slamming against metal. The bunker amplified every sound. My breathing, his footsteps, the echo of a man who no longer pretended to be a cop. I ducked into a side room, slammed the door, and shoved a storage cabinet in front of it. My hands trembled so violently I had to grip the counter to steady myself. "Marcus," Rowan shouted through the metal, not angry, commanding. "You don't understand what those documents are. They were never meant to surface. We're trying to contain damage that started before either of us was born." Contain. That word chilled me worse than the concrete walls. Jake hadn't been collateral, he'd been silenced. And now I was next on the list. I scanned the room desperately. Old wiring, rusted panels, a maintenance hatch leading upward into darkness. My ticket out or a trap? No time to doubt. I climbed. And for the first time in 20 years, I chose survival over guilt. The hatch led into a narrow service shaft, the kind built for electricians, not panicked fugitives. Every rung groaned under my weight, dust raining into my eyes as I climbed blindly toward the thin promise of air. Below me, I heard Rowan shove the storage cabinet aside. His footsteps were slower now, deliberate. He knew the shaft was the only exit. Halfway up, my foot slipped, sending a clang through the metal chamber. I froze, breath strangled in my throat. "Marcus," Rowan called up, voice echoing. "If you walk away from this, you'll be hunted. The people who want those documents won't stop. They never have." His words weren't a threat. They were a truth delivered with unsettling calm. Maybe he believed he was saving me from worse men. Maybe he wasn't lying about the scope of whatever we'd stumbled into as kids. But the moment he stalked me through the dark with a gun, he'd forfeited any claim to my trust. I pushed upward, ignoring his voice, ignoring the burn in my shoulders, until finally the hatch above gave way. Night air flooded in, cold, clean, shocking. I crawled out into the woods, collapsing onto damp leaves. When I turned back, Rowan stood in the hatchway, silhouetted by bunker light, but made no move to follow. "You can't outrun this," he said quietly. I didn't answer. I just ran. And somewhere between the trees, I realized the truth. The documents might have been worth millions, but escaping their gravity would cost far more. I didn't stop running until the woods thinned into the edge of town, the familiar glow of streetlights washing over me like a lifeline I didn't deserve. I collapsed onto a bench behind the old diner, chest heaving, sweat cooling against my spine. For a long time I just sat there, shaking, waiting for footsteps that never came. Rowan had let me go, or maybe he didn't need to chase me. Maybe he knew I'd spend the rest of my life watching shadows anyway. In the weeks since, everything has changed without actually changing. I quit my job, moved apartments, filed a report against Rowan that vanished into ongoing internal review, which is bureaucratic code for nothing will happen. I didn't tell the police about the bunker or the folder with my name on it. I didn't tell my girlfriend why I wake up at 3:17 every night, gasping like the air's been sucked out of the room. But I did one thing that mattered. I went back to Jake's mother. I told her I was sorry. For leaving, for hiding, for letting fear shape every part of my life. She didn't forgive me, but she listened. That was enough. Here's what I've learned. Some secrets don't destroy you in a single moment. They erode you, quietly, until facing them is the only way to stay whole. I can't undo the bunker or the documents or the chase through the dark, but I can choose what comes next. And for the first time since I was 17, that choice actually feels like mine.